So nobody drives the day quite like President Trump. He announced today a sweeping crime and homelessness crackdown in Washington, D.C., temporarily putting the feds in charge of the Metropolitan Police for 30 days. He is also deploying 800 National Guard troops to the streets. This is all part of his plan to liberate our nation's capital after a string of violent episodes that have left residents on edge. There was that brutal attack on a former DOJ staffer, and just this past weekend, shots rang out at a big gathering of teenagers in the Navy Yard neighborhood.
This is Liberation Day in D.C., and we're going to take our capital back. You're reporters, and I understand a lot of you tend to be on the liberal side, but you don't want to get mugged and raped and shot and killed. And you all know people and friends of yours that happened. This dire public safety crisis stems directly from the abject failures of the city's local leadership. The radical left city council adopted no cash bail. We will bring in the military if needed. We're going to restore the city back to the gleaming capital that everybody wants it to be.
And here's a familiar face, U.S. Attorney for D.C., Jeanine Pirro, vowing to change the laws that protect violent young offenders.
We need to go after the D.C. Council and their absurd laws. The president is going to do everything we need to do to make sure that these emboldened criminals understand we see you, we're watching you, and we're going to change the law to catch you. These kids understand. I can't arrest them. I can't prosecute them. They go to family court, and they get to do yoga and arts and crafts. Enough. It changes today.
And D.C.'s Mayor Muriel Bowser responding to the president, making the case that crime is down from previous years. Meanwhile, some in the media are suggesting there's a racial element to Trump's crackdown.
They seem to hold their harshest criticism sometimes for cities that are majority black and brown. Do you see that, and what do you think that means?
I think that I have been dealing kind of with this issue for a number of years. It's kind of easy fodder on the campaign trail.
All right, let me start with my former Washington, D.C. Capitol Hill neighbor, Charlie Hurt. It's one of these things that when you live in that city, you think, you wake up and you look at the Capitol, wow, it's so beautiful, it's so great. But you have that awareness around you, and it's gotten worse since I left.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think that since if you look at the numbers and I'm always very skeptical about all the numbers, but just from 2012 to today, the murder rate itself has doubled. It's a serious problem. And it has been a serious problem for a long time. And I think that, and I love, and I agree, nobody can hold people's attention the way Donald Trump does. He used this press briefing to even pitch his new ballroom repeatedly. Yes. He never stopped selling. He keeps talking. He kept shouting out to the reporters in the room, I know you're all liberal, but you want to have a safe city. The place was absolutely jam-packed, I think, in at least some small part, because everybody in there does know the safety risks. And they do know people who have been mugged or shot or worse in the city. And the idea that you're going to hide behind this notion that, oh, this is an impossible problem that can never be fixed. And politicians, that's kind of like the last place they go when they don't want to face accountability for something, and they don't have any solutions for anything. They just say it's a problem that cannot be fixed. And we've heard this for years, for decades, about the Middle East. We've heard this for decades from both parties about the border. And Donald Trump came along and said, well, I'm not going to look at it the way you look at it and say that this is a problem that cannot be fixed. I'm going to actually try to fix it. And so then what did we wind up with in the Middle East? We wind up with the Abraham Accords, which I think are the most important steps towards actual peace in the Middle East that we've ever seen. And if he is able to extend them, they could become even more powerful in that regard. And then, of course, the border, he manages to walk in and fix the border in one day. So I'm kind of open-minded to the idea that, yeah, D.C. is a kind of a cesspool in a lot of ways. It's a dangerous city in a lot of ways, but I don't know, maybe thinking about it from a totally different approach might fix it.
Emily, you didn't have any type of coverage of this in April when the governor of New Mexico, who's a Democrat, called in the National Guard to help with crime in that city. And good for them, because they needed to do something about it. What do you think the legal issues that the some of the Democrats are bringing up, saying that this isn't allowed, this is not constitutional. Is that going to hold up?
Right. No, it won't, because I think President Trump has been very clear that he's exercising the specific powers afforded to him there in Washington, D.C. And the mayor acknowledged in reaching out to the attorney general saying, I will be here to collaborate with you. Now, granted, she also pushed back on a lot of issues there, but I see him actually staying squarely within the lane that the Constitution afforded him and meant, by the way, Washington, D.C. to be, which was under federal rule. It was never supposed to be a state adjacent like it has become now. Frankly, that's certainly not what the framers intended. So how did we get here? Let's talk about it. So the laws and policies in D.C., like the Youth Rehabilitation Act and the age of criminalization being 18 and family court diversion, they have been totally distorted. The aim was to protect children from themselves. But we need to be protected from these children.
Yeah.
The rate of recidivism for them alone, for these kids, is almost double that of adult recidivism rates. And they are disproportionately committing these violent crimes. So the mayor says crime is down in D.C. But here are the facts. If D.C. was a state, it would be the highest homicide rate. It is 6 times higher than here in New York City. In 2025 alone, there have been 1,600 violent crimes and almost 100 homicides, and vehicle theft is up almost 600% in just 5 years alone. And a final note about the violence and the classification, because you hear a lot from the left when they argue or throw out criticism when they're not saying that things are racist or unable to be fixed. And it's always about, well, it's non-violent or it's a misdemeanor. And all of those classifications have been sort of summarily, magically introduced into the conversation, and it is not based in reality. Talk to any criminal law attorney or a victim or a family member and tell them carjacking's not violent, or these burglaries en masse are not violent, or stalking is not violent, or these burglaries are a misdemeanor, and they will argue with you every step of the way. So DC is the first city, and plenty more will take, I think, this example, which will be whip everyone into shape, the prosecutors, the judges, the law enforcement, get the kids out of this family court. Bravo, President Trump.
There's a young Democrat named Yemisi Egbobole that I've been getting to know a little bit. And
How's she doing?
She's great, and you're going to like her. She's probably going to be on your show sometime.
She's great.
She's great. And she wrote a piece for Fox Opinion today, basically, Harold, saying that Democrats should not downplay the crime issue, especially for minority neighborhoods, because it's on their minds and they would like it fixed too, and that maybe they're going to be okay with somebody trying to get a handle on it.
Right, so good to be back around the table. I try not to put race in everything. And in this instance here, Greg has said something many, many times before about crime. And we were talking about the border in the context about why does the issue have to be, but you're not at all, Dana, but why do we have to talk about race, whether it's a Democrat or a Republican doing it? No one wants their pocketbook stolen. No one wants their kids attacked. No one wants their sister or mom raped. And no one wants their grandfather shot while trying to go get on a train. I read a little while ago that Union Station in D.C. is a place where some of the National Guard will be deployed first, and some other neighborhoods. I've been in the train station early in the morning there in Union Station, and it's trying to navigate a crazy place as you're walking through there. I can imagine if I had my kids with me during that time. I think Democrats need to understand, and Republicans, but Democrats, just to put the politics on it, when President Trump talked about the border during the campaign, and Democrats, for whatever reason, some of the national Democrats and some big voices in the party, particularly the president and some around him, didn't seem to take that as seriously. That was an issue that hurt us, but more importantly, it was an issue that hurt the country. The crime issue, I heard Kash Patel today say during the press conference, and he was right, that the murder rate has come down. And Mayor Bowser has said the murder rate has come down. But when you live in communities or you live in neighborhoods where crime is taking place, those statistics mean things. But if you're worried about your kids, worried about yourself, worried about your families, you want someone, and you're expecting government to step up to the plate. I'd say one thing to everybody, New Yorkers, people live in Maryland, people live in Colorado, people live in Illinois, Florida, Georgia. We need to end cash bail. This no cash bail thing has not worked. Now, there were many who thought it might work because you're going to let people were going to jail to they were spending more time waiting for their trial than they were if they got convicted of something. But we're seeing now that the thing doesn't work. There ought to be a bipartisan effort to say, look, let's end it now. Whether you're a Democrat that supported it in the past, it just didn't work. And we ought to be willing to admit that. Any Republican or Democrat has an idea that doesn't work, just admit when it doesn't work. This one has not worked. We should get away from it. 2, Our Fox reporter, I can't think of his name, young guy, I see him on Brett Baer's show a lot, and I've seen him on your show in the morning. He asked, I think, the first or second question of President Trump during the press conference, and I think it's a legitimate question. He said, Mr. President, will you be willing to take this to other cities? And the president said, yes. I hope that this template works, that we find a way to take it to Chicago and Baltimore and Memphis and Denver and Atlanta and other places that may need it, where you have communities that are wrecked by crime. And then two, he raised a question, which I'm totally opposed to the legalization of any drugs. And apparently President Trump and his team are looking at reclassifying marijuana. And the reporter asked, how do you reconcile that if people think that could be a gateway to some other things that these kids are doing? And I thought my former seatmate here and my pal here who talked about young people, I wouldn't be surprised if there were not drugs that are a part of that, as well as these young people are holding guns and handling guns and committing crimes with guns. It was interesting. I didn't realize you couldn't prosecute a kid unless they kill somebody with the gun or rape somebody with the gun. If they have a gun or they use it, that has to change. And I hope that the U.S. attorney there, my friend, is able to change that. And finally, again, I hope that people want to inject race in this stuff. Don't. Crime happens. I don't care whom it happens to. I'm not happy if it happens to a Democrat. I'm not happy if it happens to a Republican. I thought the president was cute with words about you liberals. Liberals don't like crime. Conservatives don't like crime. Blacks don't like crime. Whites don't like crime. Let's get rid of it. And that's why I was pleased and encouraged by what the president did today.
Greg, of course, you're going to comment on whatever you want, but let me set up one thing that occurred to me today.
Ooh, exciting.
Is that President Trump isn't doing this for himself, right? So he lives in the White House. He has car service through the Secret Service. He gets to go to Mar-a-Lago. He goes to his place, what's it called? The nice place? Bedminster. And so it's like he's wanting to make the city better for other people. And he's like, okay, well, I have the power to try to help. So he says, we might as well give this a shot.
Most of the big questions that he addresses are like that. Mm-hmm. Have you noticed that? Whether it is the border or the Middle East or this, it's like he'll look at war and you'll think, oh, he's so simplistic about saying, what a waste. When he looks at war, he says, what a waste. All these people dying. They could be working and making money. That's how he thinks. And he's like, all these people dying, carjacking, that's bad. And all the academics are like, oh, he's so simple. Sorry, dude. He's right. You know what? I used to look at life, Dana, as something that everything would go my way. And when things go wrong, that would be the exception. I realized that it's the opposite, that life is actually a series of inconveniences. And when something goes right, that you should be grateful. That's Trump. You know, if you look at Trump expecting a smooth ride, you're insane, right? But if you accept his brash, confrontational, unpredictable style as the system, when you get these big gifts, whether it is the closed border or the Abraham Accords, you go, wow, that's something else, and you're grateful for it. Trump is the human embodiment of life itself. In that, it's challenging, it's unpredictable, it's a bit wild, it could be scary, but when things go right, it's wonderful and it's huge. I wasn't planning on saying that, but you asked me that question. Can I talk about crime?
Do whatever you want.
All right. The homicide rate is 6 times higher in D.C. than in New York City. It's 18 times higher than Havana. Carjacking is up 547% from 2018 to 2023. The D.C. police commander was suspended for changing crime stats to make it look like they had dropped. They would report something that involved a gun or a knife as a felony assault because the FBI uniform crime system doesn't report felony assaults. This is the nation's capital. This is where a lot of people come because it's our capital. It's like going to Disneyland and their oldest, greatest ride is a bottomless pit with spikes in the bottom. It's like you get there and you go, this is what the country's about? Now, imagine if we didn't care at all. If the adults just went home and got cigarettes or just left home, got cigarettes, didn't come back. That would be racist. But if you decide to stay and save the cities from this progressive ideology that only makes it unlivable for everybody but politicians, then that's racist too. Mm-hmm. So if you stay and help, it's racist. If you choose to leave, white flight, that's racist too. But why can't you leave if you're not wanted? How was that racist? Turns out that's the Democrat Party. People are leaving that. They're leaving colleges that are anti-Semitic. They're leaving cities that are dangerous. Turns out the intolerant few causes the many to leave. You notice this. No cash bail. You bring that up. You brought this up a lot. Probably, a dozen times in the last 2 years?
At least.
Everybody agrees. Why doesn't it change? We need to ask, Why is no cash bail still around? Who is it profiting?
Benefits.
Who is it benefiting if everybody agrees? And why can't we just stop it? There's something going on there.
President should executive order that too.
Amen.
All right. Well, maybe we'll have a press conference on that tomorrow.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.